In Kamilaroi language, there are shared words to denote both the anatomy of trees and that of the human body: trunks and legs, branches and arms, bark and skin, and leaves and tongues. This presentation, titled "The Word for World is Body," takes inspiration from both this linguistic polysemy and Ursula Le Guin's anti-colonial science fiction text, "The Word for World is Forest," to explore the idea of the forest in danger in the artworks Mother Tongue by Australian Kamilaroi artist Warraba Weatherall and Untilled by French artist Pierre Huyghe. In both artworks, there is a shared attentiveness to the intertwined kinship between human and forest, through each work's approach to ecological crisis. Existing as a part of a more than human ecosystem, not only forests but bodies, language and culture are under threat as a result of anthropocentric extractivism and destruction. Comparing Mother Tongue and Untilled, I look to Reworlding, a practice envisioned by Donna Haraway and reimagined through an Indigenous lens by Nyungar writer Claire G. Coleman and Métis writer Jen Ray, as a call to responsibility that reimagines a world outside the aftermath of human domination. Both works affirm the conviction that the survival of the planet depends on honouring the inalienable kinship between human and nature. Warraba Weatherall's Mother Tongue is a new work commissioned for the 5th National Indigenous Triennial After the Rain, which opened at the National Gallery of Australia in 2025. The artwork responds to the exhibition's provocation that after the rain there is hope for regeneration and renewal, just as wild blooms spread across country after periods of heavy rainfall. In Mother Tongue, 9 stainless steel autopsy tables are arranged in a darkened room beneath flickering grey projector light. Atop the tables, shallow troughs that would ordinarily hold a human cadaver instead bear videoed scenes of deforestation, overlaid with Kamilaroi kinship designs. Bark is flayed from body, torsos are felled like trunks. Weatherall's work aligns with an understanding of reworlding as described by Coleman and Ray, as an indigenized practice that encompasses the non-linear everywhen, a time outside of time in which past, present and future sit alongside each other, that asks us to look back in order to look forward and imagine the world before the colonial aftermath. Reworlding is described as a process of building what could have been prior to colonial disruption, and a process through which to cultivate an understanding of our relationships to kin, country, and histories in order to build new worlds. In this forensic depiction of ecological violence, Mother Tongue reveals the corporeal effect of environmental destruction, illuminating the connection between people, language, knowledge systems, and country that must be nurtured to restore the world before the aftermath. Weatherall asks us to confront the continued effects of colonial systems on bodies, on forests, on culture, in order to overcome historical traumas and consider our responsibilities towards cultural and environmental sustainability. Where Weatherall depicts an environment scarred by colonial deforestation, Pierre Huyghe's Untilled presents instead a landscape not governed by human intent, but by agential ecological processes. Produced for Documenta 13 in 2012, Untilled enacted an environmental performance, reclaiming a woodland compost site in Cassel's Baroque Carlsau Park, blurring the boundaries between art and environment. As an environmental performance, Untilled enacts environmental processes as its medium, by framing the dynamic and complex interactions between its non-human performers, persisting at a timescale beyond the span of focused human attention. Huyghe describes the materiality of Untilled as comprising live things and inanimate things, made and not made. Compost mounds sprout a garden of native weeds and introduce psychedelic plants amidst stacked concrete slabs. Alongside algae-covered puddles, stagnating in the disintegrating bitumen of the lot, a colony of tadpoles thrives in a shallow basin of water. Amidst the verdant industrial ruin are scattered so-called artifacts, including the felled trunk of one of Joseph Boy's 7,000 oaks. Huyghe's work invites us to cross the threshold to the everywhen, where timelines of ruin and regeneration converge, blending history, fiction, and ecology in a mythological world that exists beyond the aftermath of industry. This post-apocalyptic tableau is indifferent to human presence, yet humans are present in the form of a reclining marble nude, head masked and writhing with a swarming beehive, reimagining our relationship with the more than human world as a symbiotic cohabitation. In a poetic subversion, the human becomes colonized by nature, as the hive occupies the marble form and propagates new life beyond human intervention, blooming amidst the rubble. As Haraway writes in her iconic manifesto for multi-species kinship, Staying with the Trouble, there is nothing in times of beginnings that insists on what has come before, or indeed wiping out what comes after. She suggests that to reworld is to exist in an entangled present, composed of both rememberings and comings, of staying with the trouble to nurture what still might be, and to take responsibility for our place in a damaged earth. Similarly, Coleman and Ray describe reworlding as a speculative practice, grounded in the eternal now of the everywhen, that seeks to reorder the troubling ecological impacts of the Anthropocene. Both artworks present an embodied experience of nature, asking audiences to consider their relation to and responsibility towards forests in danger. In Mother Tongue, body and tree are inextricable, as the violence enacted upon the forest is offered up for inspection on the autopsy table. Weatherall speaks to this responsibility by asking audiences to bear witness to the cycles of history and renewal as a continuous process, where the affect of history and the future we are working towards are two sides of the same coin. Just as Weatherall asks audiences to consider their relation to cultural and environmental sustainability, Untilled invites participation in an embodied and reciprocal encounter with an unfurling ecosystem, as new growth regenerates industrial decay. Through Reworlding, Weatherall and Huyghe foreground the interconnectedness of humans and nature, and the agency of the more than human, as a salve against the anthropocentric extractivism that threatens Earth's forests. As Le Guin writes in Arts of Living on a Damaged Planet, one way to stop seeing trees only as natural resources is to class them as fellow beings, kinfolk,